Thank you very much. So my story with horses probably began many, many years ago when I was very, very little. I think every time I saw a horse, I was so excited. If I wasn't riding, I was cleaning the stall or brushing my pony or reading its stories or playing with it or watching it. To say I was horse crazed is an understatement. All my life, I've just felt so passionate about them. I was very fortunate to, when I was a teenager, got introduced to photography. And it took many years of working, photographing all different types of things. I have a family portrait business, but I was able to kind of return my vision to horses. Theodore Roosevelt National Park is about 75,000 acres. The horses are in the South Unit, which is 46,000 acres. Currently, there are 138 horses. There are 18 band stallions, 13 bachelor stallions. The oldest mare, her name is Flicka, and she's 24. And the oldest stallion is Circus, and he's 20. And there are currently 18 foals in the park. I'm sure if you've been in the park, you know the Loop Road. And unfortunately, this past spring, part of the Loop Road collapsed, so you can no longer get easily to certain areas of the park. What I found over the course of time is where most of the bands like to be, depending on the season of the year, and that changes. Oftentimes, when you're looking for them, you try to find a high point, and there are 3 fairly visible horses in this image. There's one, there's the back of another, right there, that dark spot, and there's another. So when I'm in the park and I haven't seen any horses from the Loop Road, I'm going to get to a high vantage point and look and see if I see them. When you saw the previous image, it looked kind of flat, but surprise, it's not. There are these washes that go throughout the park. So what'll happen is you've got to find your way down, across the water, and up again. And that can be kind of challenging, and it may actually take you a distance away from where you want to go, because there's only so high that you can climb and have a grip. One of the other things that happens when you're out there in the wild is finding these lone bison. And when they're looking at you, I really have a lot of respect. If they're grazing, I feel much more comfortable. If they're staring at me, I'm not so comfortable. And I usually will alter my course, look for, a high point, rocks, trees, anything. Where do I want to go if I happen upon a buffalo? The horses don't seem to mind them. The bison seem to just be amongst the herd. Maybe they just like being with other animals. They've maybe been kicked out of the band they were with, and maybe they're a little bit lonely and happy to have the company of horses around. For some reason, very early on, I got the idea to look at the horses through the different seasons. And my book begins with winter. Just to give you an idea of what I'm wearing to stay warm, it was about 12 degrees. I was hiking looking for a band that had a brand new baby, and I've got multiple layers on every part of my body. In the book, I like to kind of introduce the scene and the feeling of the time of year. So this image was made actually in end of February. One of the things I noticed I was watching this stallion, and actually the rest of his band was lined up on both sides, and they were all doing the same thing. They were all pawing the ground to eat. And I realized if they weren't pawing the ground, they weren't going to eat. You know, the other thing for them is having available water, because right now with the frozen temperatures, there's not a lot of water. So I found a band by a frozen pond, and they were licking the ice. I have seen them eat snow. I think in the wintertime, you know, the important concerns for them are food, staying warm enough, and just staying together for protection. When you're approaching a band of wild horses, this right here is the stallion, and generally the stallions keep themselves a little bit away from the band. They're kind of watching out, looking for any other bachelors or stallions that may be encroaching upon them. The gray right here looking is the lead mare. She's the one that you want to have be comfortable with you, because if she's not comfortable with you, she's going to lead the whole band away. You do want to leave enough. You don't want to get too close to them. I never want to have them move away from me. I don't want to interrupt or affect what they're doing. So I keep a certain comfortable distance and respect them. And I usually like to spend a lot of time watching how they behave. This was at sunset, and I was coming out of the park, and it was bitter, bitter cold, and I shot until actually my finger froze, and I couldn't press the shutter anymore. It just wouldn't work. But it does make for a dramatic photograph. This was it's debatable, this was the first baby of the season this year. You can see how deep the snow is. It's coming up to her knees. There's a concern, of course, that it will get too cold for a young 10-day-old baby like this. I watched her a lot of times. She would stand with her head tucked under her mother's tail, sort of between her legs, trying to stay warm. And she was so adorable. Horses can fall asleep standing up. And she would fall asleep, and her legs are like this, and you'd see her kind of like rock back, and she's sound asleep, and Mom, meanwhile, would keep grazing and, you know, proceed 20, 30 feet, and all of a sudden the baby would wake up and like, oh my God, where's Mom? And go hopping through the snow because it was so deep. So it was very precious to witness. This was just a quiet moment, and I saw some horses in the trees. This one was actually laying down in the snow probably for a good 45 minutes. And before she got up, it was almost like she made a snow angel. She rolled back and forth and was completely covered in snow. And when she stood up, she shook, and all the snow came off of her. One of the things for me, photographing the horses is understanding and predicting behavior. So in general, when a horse rolls, it's going to then get up and shake, and there's a lot of movement. If it's in the summertime, there's going to be dust flying. In my photographs, I like to have movement and action. So you kind of try to predict when something's going to happen that might be interesting to photograph other than a horse eating or staring at me. And there are other behaviors that are very predictable as well. This is a stallion and a mare, and he's obviously flirting, and she's obviously not happy about his flirting. I have no clue. She's pregnant, and she's so much bigger than him. I have no clue how they did it, but I guess they did. And she had a beautiful baby in the springtime. Just as the sun was setting, I happened to look out. I mean, it was the last licks of it, and I saw this beautiful horse trotting up this hill. This is a small band of horses. It's not so easy hiking around in the park. In the wintertime, in the photo on the left, I actually had been walking on top of the snow and then completely fell in. And the camera is so heavy, it makes it really difficult to get out. Other times you may be climbing a fence in order to get to the band. And this is a stallion who's disciplining his mare and foal, come to me, I want you guys to come over here, not where you are, and do it quickly. A little bit of flirting going on, and the two yearlings are very interested in what mom and dad are doing. This was very funny. I spent probably about 5 hours with this band of horses, and these three youngsters could not be any closer to each other. I mean, and at one point, these two were laying on either side of them. And it was a very, very cold day, that they actually did want to lay next to each other to stay warm. And the stallion, who's this gray blob here, really was very relaxed with me being there for him to completely lay down, put his head down like that, and go to sleep. The babies like to experiment with what their legs can do. This seemed to be Beam Me Up Scotty. He literally just went airborne. He was having a great time running around his mother. Oftentimes when they find a good place to roll, they all will roll there. There must be something nice about the ground there and the sand there. So this was pretty funny, all of them at different stages of rolling. This band was spooked by running bison, and you can see them start to move away, and they actually took off at quite a gallop. My book is broken up into the seasons, so in the springtime, some of the things that you're going to see are stallions posturing with each other. You're going to see mares and foals. A lot of foals are born in the springtime. The bachelors are looking to pick up mares, and if there's any swapping of horses, a lot of times a band stallion will pick up some mares, have them for a period of time, but maybe can't manage that big of herd, and then he loses them. Some babies like to be really close to their moms. This is definitely a young one, and felt very comfortable being really close. This is that big mare from the wintertime, and you can see how pretty her baby is, and they both are running together. Here's another one experimenting with what he can do. He was the first foal that year. And they like to play with each other. The younger, the young foals with the yearlings. If there are any 2-year-olds, the 2-year-olds play with the yearlings, and I think it's a way of socialization. The stallions are often found standing off, watching for any intruders. This is a particularly old stallion, and I like the way that he sort of seems to just blend right in with the landscape and the natural habitat. This is a mother, daughter, and grandmother. So oftentimes they'll remain together as close family, a close family unit within the band for many, many years. This is also mother, daughter, and grandmother. And anytime I find this band, those three are always together. You can always kind of count on it. The stallion on the right had just acquired 5 new mares because another stallion had died. And so that stallion's mares were kind of up for grabs. So in this particular image, he's telling the one on the left, stay away from my horses. So this stallion, again, it's springtime, and he wants a little action, and she doesn't. And these two right here, this is mother and daughter. And every time I see, this is a sidekick, And every time I see him and these two, they're always together. So again, you're kind of, in terms of predictability, I know what I'm going to find. And a spring scene might look like this. Here, the older, probably that mare's yearling, does not want those two foals being so close, and he's showing his displeasure. Summertime, I think the biggest concern in the summertime is the heat for the horses. Insects, the flies and the gnats and the ticks. So they're really trying to stay comfortable. This is two young stallions kind of playing and posturing with each other. It might be like if you had, two boys, 10 and 12, and they're just wrestling, at your house, trying to stay cool by the water. You see how close they are so that when their tails swish, they swish each other. They almost always seem to be touching, which is, I think, really interesting. This stallion was a bachelor stallion. He had lost his band a few years before this image was made. And this mare had been with a stallion who really didn't seem to care very much for her, and she had gotten kind of thin and sickly looking. And I came around the road and found the two of them together. And it looked like they were beaming. Absolutely beaming. She was happy. He was in love. I mean, it was just the sweetest sight. And I watched them, they were on the road for a while, and then they went up into the hills and just kind of enveloped each other. And it was a beautiful sunset image to remember of this particular moment. This was made my first trip to the park in 2014, and these are 4 bachelor stallions at the time. Now they have their own bands, and they have a lot of horses. But here, they were like, a bunch of guys, college guys, whatever, hanging out with each other, trying to stay cool on the top of a hill on a muggy, hot summer day. The stallion on the left there, the chestnut, is the same as he is there. So you can see how much he's matured and grown, and he's challenging, flax is challenging copper. I'm better than you. This was particularly interesting. They had gone down to the river, I think, to cool themselves off. They had rolled in the mud, and they were coming up from the river, grazing, and this particular horse here is being, attacked by the one on this side, and the youngster over here is mounting him, and he's just standing there taking it. He's not kicking, he's not running away. He's just kind of like, oh, well, I guess they're just beating up on me, kind of funny. This image, there's a cave in the center of the park. This stallion here is the older stallion, and his son, who was 5 at the time, really did not belong in the band anymore because he was too old. And Clinker, the one on the left here, should have kicked him out. But I think Clinker had a bad leg. He had broken a leg a number of years ago. It had healed, but he was still kind of weak. He had one leg, hind leg, that was kind of weak. So I watched probably for about 5 hours as these two glared at each other from separate sides. And the mares, of course, trying to stay cool, staying close together. When they came out of the cave, his son, the 5-year-old here, they basically battled. And you can see the old scars and injury to this particular leg. And he did lose the battle. And the following year, this is the 5-year-old, now 6, has all those horses. And he was still in the same place, getting shade from the summer sun. This is often what you'll see. There are a number of the band stallions that seem to kind of enjoy each other's company. They graze near each other. They don't exchange horses or intermingle, but they do seem to accept each other's company. And, fall comes and the leaves start changing and the days grow shorter. And I think it's a peaceful time. The pests are gone, the nights are, the days are a little bit cooler. You can see here the relationships of the horses in this band. This is the band Stallion. These two are best friends. These three hang out with each other. And this grown baby is still nursing off its mom. You can see he's kind of big to be doing that, but that's what was going on. And the Stallion, he's looking at me, but his ears are kind of relaxed. His ears aren't pricked forward. His head isn't up. His nostrils aren't flaring. He's not alarmed that I'm there. So, I think there's definitely more peacefulness in the fall season. The bands range generally in size anywhere from 3 to 15, somewhere in there. I think in other parts of the country where there are wild horses, the bands sometimes are larger, and they may have a head stallion and they may have a secondary younger stallion, but not in this park. This, again, you always see this stallion surrounded by his mares here, and they're always like hugging and touching like that. Sometimes the babies look like the mamas. This one was a newborn. This is atop one of the buttes, and you can see how far a view they have of what's going on below. They all still kind of stay close together and help with any remaining flies that are around. This was the clinker having to kind of assert himself with this 5-year-old stallion here, so all the horses took off running. There's a group of horses that live on the other side of the river. Sometimes they cross over, but sometimes they stay on the other side. And once the river freezes, then they're stuck on the other side. They basically can't come over till the springtime. This very patient father's letting his daughter nibble on his tail. Some of the dads are very attentive to the babies and protective of the babies. This particular group of horses, I was downwind. So when they saw me, they couldn't smell me because the wind was blowing into my face, so they didn't know who I was. This is the lead mare right here. That's the stallion. And there they were all kind of running off. When you're out in the park, I've been surprised at how many coyotes will come right between the band of horses and walk right past me. I would say I've been within 10 feet, and it's like they just completely ignore me. It's kind of a cool thing to be that close and see them. You see bunny rabbits, you see porcupines. What the park has an adoption program going on to manage the herd size, and these two are yearlings, and the little foal you can see is playing with this yearling, and this yearling's pulling this one's tail. And half an hour after I made this picture, the park rangers came and darted this one and this one to take them out of the park. So what happens is they get darted, and then slowly they get sleepy and lay down, and then they have a big tray where they pull the horses out of the park and take them to a facility. This little baby over here was adopted, and that's what he looks like now, which is pretty amazing. Beautiful horse with a good home. These two that are fighting here were adopted, and that's the latest picture of them. So that's the chestnut, that's the roan, and this is another horse that also came from the park. So I think really good things are happening.